Alright, good morning everyone. This is just a quick tutorial on how to create our very super cool 3D model of our food truck. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take a pair of scissors and very carefully cut around the outside of the food truck template. You're cutting on all of the solid lines. So you're going to cut around, try and do it as neatly as possible because you do want your food truck to go together nice and easily and smoothly. Okay, just cutting around all those solid lines. Now while you're cutting, I want you to notice, and you can see right here by where my scissors are at, there's a couple of tabs, so make sure you don't cut them off. Pretty much anything that you see with a little dot on it, you don't want to cut off. I'm just making these little notches here so that I can easily fold my little bit of my tabs in. I'm going to raise up my camera a little bit so you can get a better shot of what exactly I'm doing here. So yep, just going around and cutting this out. You notice I'm cutting from the edges in towards the middle. That just makes things a little easier for when I'm cutting. Alright, there's a tab down at the bottom there. You can see them with their little dots on the bottom. I'm going to cut around my wheels so that my wheels look super cool. Just that little tiny bits there. So it actually looks like we have some wheels. Okay, and I'm just cutting off the extra bits here. So just going around and cutting out my food truck as carefully and as neatly as possible. And of course for the video I'm going a little bit quicker than you probably should. Okay, so now that I'm done cutting, I'm going to look for all of my straight lines. And that's probably where I'm going to be folding. But before I do fold, I can see little kind of lines right here. Those are little notches that you do want to cut just right up to that straight line so that you can fold those tabs in nice and easily. Let me cut that little wheel well out a little tiny bit so that this tab folds up. You'll see what I'm talking about as soon as I start putting this all together, and I am just going to use a little bit of clear tape for that. So you see here I've got a nice straight line. Now a cool tip is you can use a ruler right up against that straight line to help you fold nice and straight. So do want to make sure that all your folds are nice and straight, and you'll notice I've just kind of folded it back and forth on that same line a couple of times so that I get a nice sharp fold. You can use your fingers, you can use a pen or a pair of scissors to get that crease nice and sharp. Oops, I didn't fold that quite as nicely as I had wanted to. So there go my sides. Okay, along the back here I have this little tab that's got to fold up, and my doors. Okay, folding that up, you can see that's how that's going to kind of work. Make that little box truck for me. But I'm not putting it together yet. I'm not using any tape yet. I'm doing all of my folding first. This way when I go to go ahead and tape it together, it tapes together nice and smoothly. So I don't have to worry about taping things together later on or last minute. Alright, time to do, oops, didn't cut here, so let me do that. And this gets folded over. Same thing on the other side. Got to cut around that little tire. That gets folded over. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold it along that front fold line. Right there. And then I'm going to fold all of my tabs in. Now, we're going to be coating this in some plaster wrapping, so this truck is going to be kind of nice and solid once we're done. Okay, so there's the basic folds and the basic truck cut out. So now my job is to go ahead and tape it all together. Alright, I know the doors aren't going to meet up perfectly. I'm okay with that because I'm going to worry about that. I'm going to paint on some cool doors and decorations when I'm done and I've plastered my truck all up. And I do want to tape this together very well. I don't want it coming apart in any spots. So I do want to make sure that I use enough of tape to hold this together. You can see how these little tabs flip over to give your truck a nice solid box kind of truck look. Alright, so I'm taking my time. If I have extra tape hanging over, I can just kind of cut it and fold it up underneath. Alright, this little front part is a little tricky. You do have to put a little fold right here by those windows so that can bend. And then we have these little itty bitty teeny tiny tabs on either side of your windows. Those are a little tricky, I will admit that. You know, this truck doesn't fit together perfectly, but it's a good base. It's a good skeleton for what we're doing, which is we'll be plastering these up so that they're nice and solid. We'll be using the same kind of stuff they use that when you break a bone. So that's going to be nice and solid. And you might have to do a little wiggling around. Here's another fold you have to do right up here by the grill. That front piece has to fold down. And then we're just going to kind of jam it and fit it all together. Now, of course, I have some extra pieces that are standing up here. I noticed that when I built mine the first time. So I did have to use a pair of scissors to kind of do a little bit of shaping and trimming just to make it look perfect. Alright, so there. And there. And of course those tabs are there to help you hold everything together so that everything kind of matches up. And we're matching it up as best we can. Like I said, it's not going to be the perfect little truck. There are going to be some imperfections to it, but that's okay. Alright, and here's those little extra pieces I was talking about that I'm just going to trim away so that it makes it look a little bit more perfect. It's the fun thing about building things with paper. You can trim it and shape it so that if it's not looking exactly as you wanted it, you can trim it to shape it to look how you want it to look. Alright, so now that I have this pretty well taped together, okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stuff it with some crumbled paper. So let me just reach around and find some crumbled paper. Here I got an old Kickstarter. Let me crumble that up. I might need a few pieces of paper because I want this to be able to support that nice heavy plaster. Here's another one. So a couple pieces of scrap paper, which you will find under the cart at the middle of the room. And then I'm going to use some long strips of tape to hold those pieces together. And I'm also going to get a little piece of scrap paper just to fill in the bottom there so that my paper scraps do not fall out. And then the last little tiny bit of touches that you can do while you're still building this in paper is that you can add to your food truck. So it doesn't have to be just this basic food truck shape. Alright, so there's my basic food truck there. But you'll notice on my one that I have already built, I taped on a little bit of a little canopy or a little awning so that it can be where my food truck window is. If you want to put little extra doors that open up, you can. And of course, most importantly, we do want to make sure that we put our name on our food truck so that we know it's ours, because they are going to start looking the same. And of course your class period and day would be very helpful too. And that's our basic food truck tutorial. I hope you enjoyed and I hope this helps.